I want to share that with people so that they can be successful as well. I've been very abundant about my lifestyle and about giving and filling people up as much as possible, but that's definitely come back to me probably tenfold as well. You need to make yourself stand out as much as possible, and that happens only with personalization. I know when somebody truly sends me a personalized message, you are never going to feel confident enough until you just do it. Because what I have found is that you have to act on it, and then you develop the confidence. It doesn't happen the other way around.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Hey guys, we are back with another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins, and I am your host as always. And we have Lauren Bensakovich. Oh my gosh, I tried. We have Lauren Bensakovich in our studio today. Yay me. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, this is going to be a fun show. Lauren's got a really cool story that we're going to get into. One of the things I always like to think about is abundance and scarcity mindset. So we're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on her company and a bunch of other things. Really quickly, if you haven't done it already, please make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get updates every time we get a new episode. And without further ado, let's get to it. So Lauren, would you let us know who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Lauren Bensakovich, and I am the founder and managing director of Lauren Recruiting Group. And we are essentially a boutique recruiting firm. We specialize in the placement of healthcare leadership in hospitals and healthcare facilities across the United States. And the reason I do what I do is because I founded my company in 2020, and we all know what was going on in 2020. We were going through a worldwide pandemic, and I felt very strongly, and I still do, and I'm very passionate about placing leaders at the helm of healthcare organizations to help navigate so many of the challenges in the landscape that has continued to permeate healthcare even post-pandemic.
Wow. Well, how did you get into this business?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody, is growing up in life to say, hey, I want to be an executive recruiter when I grow up. But what happened was, and there was certainly a lot of zigs and zags, but I actually started out as an RN, and I worked up through the ranks of hospital, and I ended up in labor and delivery during the last few years that I was in healthcare. And at that same time, I was also pursuing my MBA. And when I finished my MBA, which was in executive leadership, by the way, as a focus, I just felt like I wanted to meld healthcare and what I had learned as an RN into more of a business setting. And I kind of fell into recruiting by accident, and I started out recruiting primarily doctors and RNs. And then naturally, because I have an MBA in executive leadership, I progressed kind of up the chains of recruiting, and I started working specifically with healthcare leaders. And then in 2020, over a course of events, I decided to really just bet on myself and take a leap of faith and start my own business.
Yeah, that's always a jump. I have that
Yes.
conversation with folks a lot, and what was that like for you? I mean, scary? Is it exhilarating? I mean, what was that like for you?
Yep, I would say all of the above. It's certainly scary. It's also exhilarating, but it also helps you just create your own destiny. And we're going to talk about that, a little bit more further into the podcast. But I think it's really important that you, especially now, can control your own life and the circumstances as much as you can that occur in your life. And as a business owner, you absolutely can do that. But I'm not going to say that it's been rainbow and ponies all along the way. So one of the things that I did at the very beginning, or close to the very beginning, was that I had the wherewithal to figure out that I had no idea how to run a business. I had a great background in healthcare. I felt like I was an excellent RN. I also felt like I was an excellent executive recruiter. But I had never run a business, and that's a completely different game, right? So I invested pretty early after I started my business into a mastermind and a coach who specifically worked with recruiting people like myself to start their own business and go down that entrepreneurial journey.
Mhm.
And I can safely say that I would not have been nearly as successful or as certainly as quick to scale as I did had I not joined that mastermind program and worked with a coach. And so to this day, I still invest in coaching. I still invest in webinars. I go to conferences because I just think that it's so important that you continue to develop yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. What were some of the things that you were able to bypass because you got a coach early on?
Well, one of the things that, first of all, first and foremost, I think one of the things that you need to really understand when you start a business is you've got to get it straight in your head. Because if you don't have the mindset that you're going to succeed and have that grit and tenacity, it's probably not going to work. So I think one of the really big components that we went through was just the mindset that it takes to succeed in business and also just in life. So we went through a lot of that, and we went through, and I know people don't like to hear about this because they get pitch slapped every single day of their life, multiple times a day on LinkedIn. But we also talked about automation, because when you work with automation tools in the background as a recruiter or any business owner, really for that matter, it really helps you expand your business at scale because you can reach far more people that way than you can when you are trying to do things manually. But here's the caveat to that. I absolutely think, and I'm a big proponent, that you need to sprinkle in personalization as well. So do I use automation tools? Yes, I do. I'm just going to put that right out there. But am I forming personal relationships with my candidates and my clients after we first connect? Yes, absolutely. So it is bothersome to me, as I'm sure it's bothersome to everyone, when you accept a LinkedIn connection request and literally about 10 minutes later, you get pitch slapped from that person and you're almost expecting it, right?
Yeah,
Um, and I don't like that. And I don't think anybody else does as well. So I think before you ask someone to entertain your service or to set a meeting or for a coffee chat, you need to offer value before you ask them for the business. So I don't insert sales at all. I just get to know the client or the candidate first and how I might be able to serve them and what pain points I might be able to help solve for them. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, and that's okay. But I just think that automation gets a dirty word because people aren't using it effectively.
yeah. Did you have reservations when you started with it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have really put a lot of personalization behind it as well, because recruiting and human resources and talent acquisition and working with people just in general is very personal. And people are talking to you about jobs and their careers. And sometimes they're moving across the country for opportunities. And so you really need to develop a personal relationship. And you can't do that through automation at scale.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What was a mistake or something that you had to a difficulty perhaps that you had to come back from?
I think that, gosh, there's so many things in the beginning that I think I probably could have done better. But the thing was, I think I realized that I could do better. If you just
Hmm.
keep doing the wrong thing and you expect different results, it's a task in insanity. So I think that you need to realize pretty quickly, this is not working and I
Hmm.
need to pivot away from this and try something new. So some of the things that I think I tried in the beginning was I probably sent people too many messages, and I got to the point that there were just too many messages. I think that if you reach out to people 2 or 3 times and they're not interested, you just need to let it go because it can cause more harm than it can cause good. They know who I am. They know the services that I offer. They could read my LinkedIn content. They know what kind of person I am. So your vibe attracts your tribe. Yeah. So give people a chance and just back off a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. What is your if you don't mind me asking, I mean, what is your process like? Moving from a casual connection to that personal connection to potentially a client, whether a healthcare facility or a recruit, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So I use Sales Navigator, one of my favorite tools of all time. And one of the ways that we use Sales Navigator very effectively is identifying hospitals and healthcare organizations that we would like to target as our
Hmm.
potential clients. And I work primarily with small to mid-sized healthcare facilities that don't necessarily have really large talent acquisition staffs or the specialty recruiters that they need to hire leaders in their organization. So we identify a lot of those hospitals and healthcare organizations through Sales Nav as well as the decision makers. And I will start to send a series of messages out to them. Again, not more than 2 or 3. But the other thing that I really try to mix it up with is they're not very salesy. They're just, how are you doing? How might I be able to help you? Are you facing challenges like a lot of my other clients are right now in the healthcare industry of trying to find the right leaders? And I also leave a lot of voice notes, which you can use your phone for. Your iPhone has an app, and I'm assuming Android does as well, that you can leave voice notes on LinkedIn. And I think people like that you're reaching out to them, you're leaving them a voice note. Some people don't realize that you can even leave voice notes through LinkedIn, and you can. And they like to hear your voice and the fact that you're trying to personalize it. And that's really what people want right now. I'm sure they get a lot of calls from recruiters and other vendors all the time that are interested in doing business with them. But it's the people that stand out that are doing things a little bit differently, that are trying to personalize it, that are making it more of a relationship. And it truly is a relationship for me. It's not transactional, to help hospitals find their best leaders.
Side, are you using the same outreach for them as well?
Yes, we are also we use a tool called Recruiter Pro that we use a lot to identify the candidates that we want to work with on the searches that we currently have. And again, I'll send out a series of messages to them describing the opportunity, a little bit about the healthcare organization, the reason why I think they would be a good fit. And I also offer salary information right from the get-go because I know sometimes people get frustrated because they don't know what the salary ranges are. And so
Hmm.
that's probably why I actually do it, because it's not worth having a conversation for the candidate or for me if it's not something that they'll entertain based upon either the location, the salary parameters, relocation might be involved. So I try to give them as much information as possible for them to make some type of an informed decision.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. What have you seen changing in the past 5 years with respect to business development as a whole, and perhaps specifically with your business?
On business development,
Yeah, finding new clients, finding new recruits.
yep. I think, and we touched upon this a little bit, was that I think that hospitals or whoever your, ICP is that you're trying to reach out to, I think that they are just sick to death of getting so many emails, so many LinkedIn messages that they're tuning it out. And I don't blame them. I mean, I get them myself and I rarely will answer anybody back. So I think that you need to do one of two things or both. You need to either really double down on your outreach because you need to reach quite a few people in order to develop your client base. And I also think that you need to make yourself stand out as much as possible. And that happens only with personalization. And they can feel it. I know when somebody truly sends me a personalized message and they've done the work to look at my profile, understand what I do, and why their product might be a benefit to me.
Do you see LinkedIn as primary a sales platform, or do you appreciate the social or community side of it as well?
Absolutely both. I post a lot of content on LinkedIn, and probably half of it has nothing to do with business at all. It has to do with, the trip we just went on. My son graduated from college. He got his first job last year. Our pup passed away. Our senior dog, I still have a hard time talking about it. So it is very much a social connection as well. I belong to several networking groups and communities through LinkedIn. And again, I think that people appreciate seeing the person behind the profile.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Wow. What has been the biggest thing you've learned about yourself through this whole process?
Gosh, that I can do anything.
I love that.
Starting a business and going out on your own has really changed the trajectory of our lives for the better. But again, it's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes tenacity, it takes grit, and those are the things that I knew I had before, but it's really been tested the last 5 years to just keep going. And also that I can multitask. I can be a marketing person, I can be a social media person. I can create content. I can prepare my documentation for taxes. I can recruit. I can work in business development. Oh, and also in the background, I'm running a household. I'm married and I have 5 children. So there's a lot going on in the Lauren household and
Yeah.
business.
Yes, yes, yes. And how old were your boys when you started the business?
Luckily, they were older. They were in junior high, high school. Now we have several in college as well. So they can fend for themselves for the most part at this point in time. But you still have, five little people, now bigger people in the house, all of their friends, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, all the activities, all the sporting events. We tried to go to everything that we could. And that's one thing I will also say about having your own business is it has given me a lot of flexibility to attend those important events in my family and my kids' lives. We have been to over 15 countries at this point in time and traveled all over the globe. And I probably would not have been able to do all that and work at the same time had I not started my own business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. One of the things I love about it is like there's not necessarily an income gap. I mean, you can
Mhm.
always, find ways to make more money. I love that. You talked. One of the things that we talked about briefly was like that abundance scarcity mindset. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I'd love to talk about that. It's one of my favorite topics. I think more than ever, because we are living in some challenging times right now, that we all need to raise each other up and we need to help each other as much as possible. And part of that is looking at life, I think, from an abundance standpoint. I have a lot to give to people. I have a lot of experience and knowledge about being a wife, a mother, starting a business, what's worked well for me, what's not worked for me that would be really valuable for other people. So why do I want to hold that close and tight? Because I'm afraid people will find out about it. I want to share that with people so that they can be successful as well. So an example of that is that I belong to several communities of other recruiters and we get together regularly and share ideas with each other about what's working in your business, what's not working in your business. I'm looking at a new tool. Has anyone else tried this? And we share those ideas with each other openly because we all want each other to succeed. We're all trying to raise each other up. There's enough for everyone, right? To go around. We don't have to be selfish about it. And I've also started coaching other recruiters that are thinking about or have started their own recruiting firms about some of the things that we've done to be successful and some of the things that I did when I was first starting out that helped me become successful. And I am not shy about sharing these things. And, I just talked to you about some of the tools that we use in our recruiting business. Um, people want to learn and they're open to new information. And I'm more than happy to give that out so that other people can be successful and have good lives as well.
Now, when you talk about that, you talk about it from the perspective of giving. Have you unintentionally, let's say, received? Do you feel like you've received a lot? I hate to make it sound like a give and receive, but do you feel like you received a lot in return?
Yes, absolutely. I think the more that you give out, the more that more it comes back to you. And there's no question in my mind that because of the fact that I've been very abundant
Hmm.
about my lifestyle and about giving and filling people up as much as possible, that's definitely come back to me probably tenfold as well. I think the universe just gives back to you. And I know some people think that that's a little woo woo, but it's true. The more you put out there, the more that you get back. And also, hey, let's just face it, it's the right thing to do, right? We just all we need to help each other.
We're humans. Yeah, I mean, we're
Yes,
we're we're community people. Where have you seen the opposite, the scarcity mindset, kind of backfire on people?
I think that I don't operate from a scarcity mindset, so it's kind of hard for me to imagine where it might backfire. But I just think that when you hold things too close and you are so worried about giving away information and not helping other people, you just have to have a kind of an, so I'm just going to say it, you just have to have kind of an unhappy existence. If you're always holding on to things and you're afraid to help and you don't want to help, and what kind of life is that? We're on this earth to live our lives and to be grateful for what we have. So I don't know. I don't understand that mindset. I
Yeah,
can't even really speak of it because I just don't live there.
for you. Good for you. I appreciate that. What are you passionate about?
Well, I'm passionate about recruiting. I'm passionate about helping other people find their dream jobs. I'm passionate about helping hospitals, particularly hospitals that are small to mid-size that don't necessarily have the staff to help them find the right talent, or if they're in rural locations and it's tough for them to attract and recruit top talent. So I'm passionate about those types of things. I'm a nurse, so I'm passionate about healthcare. I'm passionate about children. I'm passionate about pets. We have numerous pets. My son lives on a farm with 10 acres and he has horses and chickens and goats. So yeah, pets have been a big part of our lives. And I'm passionate about travel, which is something that we have been doing a lot of because our kids are grown now and we have more time and the ability and the finances to travel around the world like this. And one of the best things that I have done for myself is to travel across the world because you see other people and you see other cultures and how people live. And you realize that as different as everyone seems like they are, we're all almost exactly the same. And I
Yes.
think that is a divine, that's a divine thought.
Hmm.
We're all the same. I mean, we were in Turkey and our guide who took us around to some of the Turkish ruins was telling us about her job and how she's trying to juggle the 9 to 5 and raise her kids. And she's not sure, if she's going to be able to get her kid to practice that evening. And I thought to myself, this is exactly the type of life that we have here in the States. And she's in Turkey, halfway around the world. And she talks about and deals with and has the same life experiences as we all do. So it's a great equalizer and it just makes you realize how much we all really have in common. And again, how we just need to support each other.
That's a blessing to be
Yes.
able to experience that. That's wonderful. What was a really difficult recruiting project that you took on and was successful at?
In recruiting specifically, gosh, okay, so there's a lot. One of the very first searches that I had when we first started, and this was several years ago, was a hospital that we were working with in the Midwest, which is where I'm from as well. And they had been looking for a director of emergency services for about 6 months, and they had not been able to identify the correct candidate. And when I took that on, I thought, and the recruiter that I was working with internally at the hospital was very good. And when I talked to her in the discovery call, I realized that she was an excellent recruiter. She had covered all the bases. She had done a lot to try to find the candidate, the very best candidate for that position. So I went into it thinking, gosh, she's really, this is a tough search. She's done a lot to try to find the right candidate, but I'm going to do my best and I'm going to see if we can find somebody. And literally, we found someone. They interviewed on day one. They were offered on day two. They accepted on day three, and it took about a week. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that's a great story.
Yes.
How'd you
And
celebrate?
they liked her so much that they skipped a lot of the interview steps because they wanted to, secure her immediately and make a very solid offer. And she got the very top of the salary range because A, they had been looking for 6 months. B, they knew that she was the right candidate. And C, they were willing to do whatever it takes to get that candidate. So they gave her a really great offer. They paid for her relocation and she's still there and she's happy as a lark.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Opposite end of the spectrum, was there a project that you took on that was just, for whatever reason, just didn't go the way you anticipated?
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough to find really good candidates right now. And what typically happens is that a lot of times hospitals will only reach out to external recruiters like myself if they have reached the end of their rope and they've tried everything to find the right candidate. So by the time I get the job rec, they've pretty much turned over every rock. So there are a lot of searches where I just can't find the right person either. And I try, I'm not successful. But the difference is that I let them know along the way, everything I've been doing, how many people I've contacted, how many interviews I've conducted, how I've mapped out the entire United States, how I've, tried to offer relocation. I've asked for referrals from people. I'm willing to put money into it myself. Listen, if you find someone, I'll pay you a $1,000 referral fee out of my own pocket. There are just times that I just can't find the right person, but I communicate that openly and regularly with the hospital instead of giving up, ghosting them, and never speaking to them again, which, happens in our industry. And I think they respect the fact that they can tell that I made a really valiant attempt, that I communicated and I followed up well, and they'll use me again. And they do use me again for other searches.
What was the situation that may have been, and I'm thinking from the perspective of recruiters that may be starting out, what was the situation that you may have found personally frustrating or disappointing that you had to evaluate perhaps and come back from?
Yeah, I think similar situations that we just described. I think that they think that success will come easy. And it's hard. It's work like everything is. You have to put in the hours, you have to put in the reps. And so, unfortunately, I think in the society that we live in right now, we're looking for instant gratification. And they think things are going to happen instantly. They're going to make placements immediately. They're going to have money in the bank. They're going to continue to grow and they're going to have this big recruiting agency and they're going to have 100 employees. And it just doesn't really happen that way. And I think that social media sometimes paints that picture. And we have people on social media posting, I made multiple six figures in 90 days. And it just really doesn't happen like that in real life. So I have to have that, excuse my language, that kind of come to Jesus talk with them sometimes about what it really takes to be successful in this business. And you're going to have bad months and you're going to have good months and you just have to keep going. And it's that consistency over time that really builds up and helps you become more successful.
What kind of personality traits, discipline, et cetera, what did you find most important in your own life as you're building your company?
I think just being authentic. And I think that you can tell just, based on you and I talking that, I'm the real deal. This is me. This is how I operate. Either, you like me or you don't. And people work with me because they do like me, or they don't with me because they don't like me. But I'm okay with that. I think that authenticity and people believing that I really care about placing them in the right job, or when I'm working with my client, I really do care about placing the right candidate in that role. And I have candidates that I will say to them in the course of the interview or during the course of the search, I'll say, I don't think this is the role for you. I am 100% okay with telling people based on everything I know and how everything's been going, I don't think that this is necessarily the role for you. And they're surprised that I would say that, but I just want to be truthful with them because in many cases, they are taking a job where they're going to be moving. They're going to be moving their family. Their kids are going to have to start new schools. Making a career decision is a big choice in your life. And I want to make sure that it's right for them. And I will be completely honest and transparent with my candidates if I don't think that that job is the one for them.
That's bold. That's bold. That's bold. That's money in your pocket, right?
Yeah, but that's part of the authenticity. And the candidate will continue to work with you because you were, in fact, so truthful with them. And in fact, I wrote about this on LinkedIn about a month ago. One of my candidates actually accepted a counteroffer and they stayed with, after the lengthy interview process and we thought they were going to take the job, they accepted a counteroffer with their current employer. And most recruiters would say, that's crazy. You shouldn't do that. You're going to be back in the job market again in 6 months. It's probably not the best idea. And I supported his decision in staying with his current employer, despite all
So,
that, because I
I mean,
believe I believe that he should stay. After we went through all the pros and cons and we went through everything together, because I'm very close with my candidates like that, as well as my clients. We just decided that the best decision for him and his family was to stay in his current job.
wow, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. I didn't realize that you were coaching them as well. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a big, big, big decision, particularly at the executive level when there are a lot of factors and there's a lot of parameters in place. It's a big decision for everybody. So I coach them along the way. If I know anything about the people that they're interviewing with, which most of the time I do, I let them know this is their personality. These are the types of questions they'll probably ask you. Here's what the role entails. These are some of the challenges you're probably going to face in the first 30, 60, 90 days. So I give them a lot of information so that they can interview well and also make the proper decision about whether to move forward.
I know. I guess I'll be a little bit transparent. I've had my company for about 20 years, and there have been a number of times when I felt like I wanted to just throw in the towel and just quit and just be like, you know what, I just have you had that experience?
Yeah, probably yesterday. No, not that soon. Yes, I do. Um, I put 5 years into this and that's not a long period of time, but it's certainly not it's not a short period of time either. And I've really put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. We also have a team right now of VAs that work with us. So it's not only affecting me, but it's also affecting the livelihoods of the VAs that work for us. My husband puts time into the company as well. He kind of is like my all around IT tech guy. He works with our tech stack. So we just keep going. And I keep reminding myself that First of all, you should never, ever, ever give up. You need to have a lot of perseverance. But one of the biggest benefits, not only from a financial perspective, but for me has been more time freedom. We have more time freedom than we've had in really my entire career, which has enabled me to spend time with my family, to plan vacations, to take time off. My husband's going to go through hip surgery in a couple months, so I'll be able to stay home and take care of him when he goes through hip surgery. So those are benefits that don't necessarily have a monetary value to them. And plus just the pride of ownership, of having your own company and running things and making your own decisions. And we talked about this in the beginning, just being able to control your destiny. As hard as I work, I can actually make more money. I control how much money I make. And we have several other types of income that I think, in fact, I think this is a good idea. Everyone should have multiple income sources. That's something that I coach my clients on a lot, is that you need to have multiple sources of income, and we do as well. So I think that as you become an entrepreneur, you start to notice these things and realize these things more and more. And it's really just changed the trajectory of our life. So I guess long answer to your question, yes, I have my bad days, but overall it's good.
What made you start down that road of finding other sources of revenue? And are they directly related to what you're doing, or are they completely different?
They're both completely different in terms of we are now buying investment properties here in the South Florida area because thankfully over the past year or so, prices have started to drop in the South Florida area. So we've been investing in properties here in the South Florida area. But related directly to recruiting is that I am now coaching, recruiting recruiters that are thinking about starting or have started their own business. I do that as well. And I'm in the midst of also developing digital courses on starting your own recruiting business.
If someone's thinking about starting a recruiting business, what are some of the things they need to think about before they say, "Hey, this is what I want to do"?
Probably the biggest thing is that you need to have a financial runway. So I would advise someone to have at least 6 months of living expenses saved up, probably more like a year. And what a lot of people have chosen to do is they stay in their full-time jobs. So they're doing their 9 to 5. And this is in the recruiting business would be their 5 to 9, as I like to call it. So they're working nights and weekends to start building up that recruiting business until they get it to a point where it either replaces or exceeds their current corporate salary. The financial piece is big because when you run out of money, you run out of hope, you get desperate. I'm sure it's a very anxious situation. You're worried about how you're going to pay your bills. Nobody wants to be in that situation. So you need to make sure that you have that financial piece in place before you start the business.
And what are three things that you would suggest to them after they've started the business?
The three things that I would suggest they do is invest in automation tools, and we talked about this earlier, do not over automate because personalization is king. They need to develop relationships with candidates and clients as quickly as possible. So they need to try to ramp up as quickly as they can, because I think once you make that first placement, you just gain a lot of confidence in your abilities. And that first placement is the hardest. And after the first placement, you make 2 more and then 5 more and then 10 more. And you just, you're off. So I just think activity and staying very busy those first 30, 60, 90 days and try to make a placement as quickly as possible are really important.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. How's artificial intelligence impacting your industry and your business?
Yeah. That's interesting because I know that's a really hot topic right now. And one of the things that I hear a lot of conversation about and buzz about is that AI will replace recruiters. And I am here to tell you that that's not going to happen. So at least for me. Now, if you are, let's just say there's actually an AI attendant that's placing restaurant workers and staff at Chipotle. And she has a really cute name like Avocado or something like that. And she's their AI assistant. Will it work at Chipotle? Absolutely, because that's a high volume, high turnover, more, retail hospitality type industry. Will AI be able to interview and place a CEO of a hospital? No, absolutely not. So that's why I'm not necessarily, I'm very skeptical that at least for the level that I'm placing in the recruiters like myself that are placing more high level candidates, that we will ever be replaced. Now, on the flip side of that, we are using, and I grasp, why run away? We are actually trying to wrap our arms around AI and using different products right now to enhance our workflows. And one of the things that I use every single day that's been the most useful is AI Note Taker. So when I'm interviewing via Zoom, all of my candidates, as well as any of the client calls I have, those are all being recorded in the background by an AI note taker. And I use specifically Fathom. And I'm sorry, I'm shameless plug. I use Fathom. If anyone's interested, I have a referral code that they can use for the first 30 days free. So that's probably the most prevalent tool that we use. So I'm also using ChatGPT to develop interview guides for my candidates. So what I do is I've developed a ChatGPT where I can input my candidate's resume, all of the notes that Fathom Note Taker took from all of our conversations, the job description of the job that they are going to be interviewing for, as well as the profile of the person who will be interviewing them, the hiring leader. And I input all of that into the chat GPT that I built, and it will come up with a list of about 20 questions
Mhm.
that will probably come up in the interview that I can then give to my candidate. They can study, and it helps them prepare for the interview. So that's just one case study that we have. We have multiple others where AI is really, really helping us become much more efficient in what we do.
Are you finding you're building like different projects or GPTs for different aspects of your business?
Yes. Again, I thought, well, why be scared of this? I should just put my arms around it and grasp it. And the other GPT that I just recently put together, and I get a kick out of doing it because it's a new challenge for me and I find it really interesting. And I think that the better the prompt you have, the better the output will be. So, one of the other prompts that I put together is something that will help write reports, newsletters, SEO blogs, social media content, LinkedIn posts in my voice so that it almost exactly replicates exactly how I would write and tell a story.
Very nice.
And I'm amazed at how close it comes to what I feel like is my authentic voice when I read it. And the reason it does that is because I have, on purpose, by intention, I loaded it up with all of my writing samples, newsletters I've produced, blogs I've written, my LinkedIn profile, a picture of me so it knows what I look like. If I wanted to, I could send the transcript of our conversation today so that it could hear my voice, my tonality, the words I use, and you put all of that into the chat GPT and it produces some content that really, really sounds just like me. It's amazing.
It is. It
Now, do
is.
I cut and paste it and throw it right in? No. I go through and I adjust the wording a little bit and style and maybe shorten it. I add a nice image, but it gives me a really, really good, solid first draft.
I love it. I love it. I use it an accelerator. It just helps get things done faster. I absolutely enjoy it. What do you see? Like, how do you see AI impacting your industry in the future? So you talked about Chipotle's. They're doing their automation process. Well, let me qualify that a little bit. One of the things that I guess is in the back of my mind is that expectations for companies or whomever goes down a little bit because the expectation is to use AI. Do you see that, or is that like far off base?
I'm not sure what you mean. Can you
So
rephrase the
like
question?
the Chipotle example.
Yes.
So Chipotle, they've got a high turnover, and so
Yes.
their expectation may not be as high. Do you see that happening, in a broader sense across the industry, or do you feel like there's still going to be those that they've got to have the top tier recruiters, out there finding candidates?
That's a great question. I hadn't really thought about that. I think that in the cases like Chipotle, their avocado app that they use is probably does a pretty darn good job of vetting and interviewing and placing candidates. Should that be the end all be all? No, because, candidates are going to slip through. Avocado may not have done the best job with the interview. She'll get ghosted just like all recruiters do. So I still think that there's going to be a place at the Chipotles of the world and really anywhere to, as a human, to vet additional candidates or a human to do the final interview per se to make sure that it's a solid candidate who understands the parameters of the position, who's ready to start and accept the job on X date. There's always going to be a place for a human, maybe not just as many. So instead of Chipotle having a staff of 100 people, maybe they only need 50.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What scares me, I think, and I think I had this conversation pretty recently, is the idea I had the conversation about just recruiting in general and people that are really good at interviewing. So they, just like we're doing with resumes now, they're learning how to scam the systems. And so it's we run into this. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. what it's going to look like down the road.
I know. It's definitely a slippery slope. I think that there are people that are trying to, like, write their resumes with AI, and pack it with keywords based on the job description to get past, the ATS. But then on the other side, I think that the human resources folks are using tools to determine if people are using AI to develop the resumes and pack it with keywords to try to get through the ATS. So it's like AI against AI, and I just don't know where this is all going to go. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually heard a conversation. Someone was asking if the candidate used AI and actually disqualified him because he
Ugh.
wasn't smart enough to use it. It's just like, how do you win?
Yeah, I know.
We're seeing lots and lots of people that are losing their jobs now, across industries. What do you recommend to folks?
I say that if you can't beat them, join them. So if you are afraid that AI is going to take your job, then you probably should become more well versed in AI, which is what we're doing. Are we afraid that AI is going to replace recruiters and healthcare recruiters and leadership recruiters like myself? No. But the recruiters that are using AI are going to be the ones that are going to be successful in the future and rise above everyone else. So if you are afraid that your job as a computer programmer is going to be eliminated because AI can now code almost as, or maybe even better than some coders out there, then you need to learn AI. You need to write prompts. You need to become a prompt engineer. You need to jump on the AI train instead of letting it run you over.
Nicely said. Nicely said. So on the candidate side, in your industry in particular, are you seeing organizations looking for people that understand how to write prompts?
Yes, I think
Really?
Yeah, I think that in healthcare has always been a more conservative industry, and they're usually a little bit lagging behind in technology, but they're jumping on board now as well. So, I am running across, and I just had this conversation yesterday with a young lady where she's working on AI and AI tools and how they can be implemented in a healthcare setting.
Hmm.
Is AI going to be able to perform surgery? No, and I wouldn't want AI performing surgery on me, but there's a lot of use cases that AI can perform very, very well in a healthcare realm. So I am going to start pivoting, as a matter of fact, and looking for people and marketing people who have those skills that kind of intersect AI and healthcare, who can write the prompts, um, who can assist doctors with documentation and nurses with documentation as they're visiting their patients in the hospital, things like that. I think that AI can also definitely be used in setting appointments when you call your doctor's office, handling prescription orders, more clerical and administrative type tasks like that. I think AI is ideally suited for customer service positions and things like that when you call into your doctor, or you call into the insurance company about the charge on your insurance bill with the hospital you were just at. I think those are great use cases for AI in the healthcare sector. And I think that people who have a really good understanding of healthcare regulations, because you're dealing with a lot of regulations, a lot of personal health information that can't, be put out there. If they have a really good understanding of those types of things intersected with the knowledge of AI, their job offers will be limitless.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. We're just about out of time. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with?
Yes, the one thing that I want everyone to understand is that just live your life, do the thing. And the reason I say all this is in this whole conversation, what permeated for me and what I'm trying to hopefully get across is that, you know, I went through some zigs and zags in my life to get where I'm at, but I did that because the door opened and I went through it. And I think some people are afraid to do that. So there's never a perfect time. You're never going to feel 100% confident about trying new things. And I know that starting a new business is not for everybody, but it's going to be different for everyone. It might be starting that book that you've been putting off or planning that dream vacation that you keep putting off. But you are never going to feel confident enough until you just do it. Because what I have found is that you have to act on it and then you develop the confidence. It doesn't happen the other way around. So you do the thing and you get more confidence, which gives you more confidence to do another thing, which gives you more confidence. And before you know it, you feel like you can do anything because you can. So that's what I want people to leave this with.
I love that. We need a poster with that.
Do the thing.
Do the thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. If someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Best place to reach me is through LinkedIn. If you want to drop my LinkedIn URL in the notes, I'm on LinkedIn nearly every single day. You can shoot me a DM. There's also a link to my website, which has a list of our current job opportunities if they want to check those out as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting anyone. And oh, by the way, I do have a giveaway. I have a PDF that I've developed that goes through the 3 steps of answering the most prevalent interview question that was ever asked, and that is, tell me about yourself. It's asked in nearly every single interview, and most people don't know how to answer it effectively because they just don't know where to go with it. So I developed a worksheet with 3 steps that will help you put together a really effective answer that will set the pace for the entire rest of the interview and set you up for success. So if you're interested in that giveaway, again, just reach out to me on DM through LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to send you the PDF document.
Awesome. And I'll put a note for that in your show notes as well, so everybody can remember to do that. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much. I appreciate the time. Bye, Rick.
My pleasure. Folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.